Standing ovations do not lead to revenue.
Standing ovations don't pay invoices. You're not following all the way through. You're leaving literally thousands of dollars on the table. Imagine if only 10 people bought and you have a $10,000 offer from your
Yes.
email list of 6,000 people. You're literally leaving $100,000 on the table because you never invited anyone to take the next step with you. I like to say there are two different types of speakers. Motivational speakers. On the other hand, there's what I like to call an intentional speaker. And these are the type of clients that I work with. Every presentation that's coming from an intentional speaker is one that the audience feels like they have learned something. They feel like there's an action that they can take that's very specific to them that could potentially solve a direct problem that they are actually experiencing right now. To your point, Brian, you said it needs to be a two-way street, right? Which I thoroughly agree with. This audience contain my ideal clients, right? Because it also needs to be a good fit for you. Speaking in front of the wrong audience can actually waste your time. Make sure that you are absolutely speaking in front of the people that have the exact problem that you solve. And by them being there, you know that they are actually serious about solving that problem because they're there for a specific reason.
All right, welcome back to another free speaker game. If we haven't met yet, my name is Brian Knowles here at Black Speakers Network, and I am joined once again with the one and only Alleyne. She is the CEO and founder of the OTOVA agency. I always got to make sure I get that right. Ashley is famous in these speaker streets for helping speakers, coaches, consultants, and experts build systems. One of my favorite words, build systems that not only get you booked on stages, but also help you turn those stages into paying clients. And so if that's what you're interested in, we're going to be having that conversation today. And we're going to be talking all about why speakers fail to turn visibility into revenue. Ashley, welcome back to BSN Free Speaker Game.
Thank you, Brian. I am so happy to be back and to continue our conversation from last time because there's a few things that we didn't get a chance to get into. So when you invited me back, I'm like, absolutely, let's do it.
Yeah, so much to get into, and I really appreciate your partnership with Black Speakers Network. I know we've had multiple people now have watched our first interview. They've attended some of your spotlight sessions, and so really great to be able to continue this conversation. So let me just dive into it. So from your perspective, because you're working with speakers on an ongoing basis.
hmm
What's the biggie? What's the big mistake that new, or would you say aspiring speakers make when they're trying to get booked, and what should they be focusing on instead, in your opinion?
Yes, and I'm so glad that this is the topic for today because the biggest mistake that I am seeing for speakers that are really just starting out, or even some people that have been speaking, but they just haven't actually called it speaking. They're like, oh, this is just something that I do. And I've been doing it since I was a child. But the biggest mistake that I'm seeing is that they have not built the system to monetize after the stage before actively speaking on stages, right? So they're more focused on, oh, how do I get booked? I'm seeing all of these industry conferences that are happening, these national conferences with thousands of people there. I want to be on that platform. But what they really should be asking themselves is, what do I have in place for what happens after the stage? And I think that's the biggest concern that people aren't really taking it seriously, where it's not just like, oh, I'm just going to get on the stage and start speaking and get an applause and then go home and go about my day. It's really figuring out, okay, what is actually going to happen after I leave that stage? And I think that's the biggest difference because the stage is not the win. It's really what happens after the stage. Because if you are speaking to grow your business in particular, the stage is actually a powerful tool that you can use to create leads for your business, right? But if you don't have that system in place initially, you're literally just speaking for applause and nothing else. And one of the things that I really want to share is a few of the pieces that you should have in place to start building out this system. And the first thing being like a solidified offer, right? I'm seeing speakers getting on stages, they want to motivate the audience, but then they have nothing to lead them to. So if you don't really have a solidified offer and you are an entrepreneur, but you're still at the foundation stage and you still are trying to figure out what you want your offer to be, I would say pause on actually speaking on stages for right now. The next thing that you actually need is a lead magnet, right? So, a lead magnet is just a free tool or a resource that you can utilize to capture the attendees that are in the audience. And you give them a free resource in exchange for their name, email, and sometimes their phone number. And then you give them something that they can actually use, right? It's an answer to a specific problem that they're having. And then you also need an email marketing platform. So that's something where once you've captured their name and email, now you have an autoresponder that's sending that resource directly to their inbox. So that way they have access to it almost immediately. And then you get to nurture them and continue the conversation long after that event has ended. And finally, I would recommend you being active on social media because that's how you get future speaking invitations. I know a lot of, for myself and for some of my clients that I work with, them having a presence on LinkedIn, showcasing that they're speaking at different events, showcasing that they're hosting different workshops, or showcasing that they were a guest on a particular podcast. Now, people are going to their profiles and they're like, oh, so you're not new to this, you're true to this. And then that's how these additional speaking opportunities and invitations can come to you. So, kind of just going back to what the biggest mistake is, it's really focusing on like what is happening after I leave this stage and not only focus on everything that is leading up to the actual stage and you delivering your session.
Incredible. I remember sitting at a an event like an ASTD conference or ATD now, and
Yeah.
there are hundreds of thousands of people at sometimes at these events, and when you see somebody get on that main stage, it could be seductive. It's like, man, if I could only get up there, everything in my life would be perfect. It's kind of like the South Park quote, but generally speaking, no, like you sometimes that space may not be as rewarding as you think if you don't have these pieces in place. And so I'm glad that you walked us through each of those four pieces, because I do believe that when we say system, sometimes people might just instantly shut off. They think, oh, I got to be this tech wizard, or I need to spend $100,000. Like I hire a team, which you may at some point, but those four things in place, it sounds like from your opinion, if you have those things or you're working on them, you're well on your way to being able to maximize that stage, regardless of what size it is.
Absolutely. And it's really just at a foundational level. Those are like the four key things I would say. And those are pretty much pieces that you can put into place for an inexpensive amount, to be honest, especially if you're able to utilize AI to support you with some of those things.
All right. So let's say we made it onto the stage. I know there are a lot of myths when it comes to the speaking world. And so my a part of what reason why I like having conversations with you, because you do a great job of demystifying some of this. And so if you would help me demystify it a little bit, because I too have sat in the audience again and heard amazing presentations. They don't automatically turn into business. It doesn't translate to revenue. You can give I mean, I don't want to start naming famous speeches throughout history, but not every speech is even designed to be monetized. So, from your perspective, what makes the difference between like, hey, this was a great presentation from one that is actually translating into leads in business?
Honestly, it's kind of twofold, right? And I think it really depends on what type of speaker you are, right? So I like to say there are two different types of speakers, and there are motivational speakers, right? So these are people who are typically like your traditional keynotes, and they want to go in, they want to have a high impact, they want to motivate the audience and kind of make them feel good, right? They don't
Yep.
necessarily have a business, or they really just there to encourage you, to inspire you and to motivate you, right? They lift your spirits, they lift the mood, they shake the energy in the space. That's your motivational speaker. On the other hand, there's what I like to call an intentional speaker. And these are the type of clients that I work with. So, the intentional speaker, you are a business owner, you are an entrepreneur, you have a core offer that you sell, you are able to get your clients results and a transformation that no one else in your industry can get. Like, you are the expert in your field. And you want to leverage speaking to grow your business, right? You have a steady set of clients that are coming in every month and you want to amplify that by speaking on stages in front of hundreds or even thousands of your ideal clients, right? So when you are an intentional speaker, I think the key difference between an intentional speaker and a motivational speaker is one, what actually goes into your presentation. And I'm going to pause on that. But I do believe that it is important in how you structure your presentation as someone who is an intentional speaker because you're not throwing all of your expertise into one presentation, right? You are there to give the audience a bite sized amount of the expertise that you have, and then essentially invite them to continue the conversation with you, right? Invite them to take the next step with you. So I think that's the key difference between the two. And what I would say a great presentation that's coming from an intentional speaker is one that the audience feels like they have learned something. They feel like there's an action that they can take that's very specific to them that could potentially solve a direct problem that they are actually experiencing right now. And you have a call to action that clearly invites them to take the next step with you, whether that's to download your lead magnet that we talked about, whether it's to join your email list, whether it's to join your upcoming workshops, something that continues the conversation and allows them to take the next step with you long after that stage has ended. So I think those are the key elements of what actually goes into a great presentation. And then the second piece of that is going back into understanding what happens after the stage, right? Okay, they've opted in, they've raised their hand, they said that they were interested in taking the next step with you. What do you have in place? Like, what does that actually look like, right? And that's the key thing that separates what I think is a great presentation between those two types of speakers.
Wow. Yeah, you just lay it out in such a easy way to digest. It kind of reminds me a little bit of, you ever go to like a really nice restaurant, you sit down and it's kind of, I think the word that I learned recently was a mouche bouche, if I'm using that correctly. Have you ever heard of this? Like it's
Yes.
yeah. Is it right? Am I saying it right? I think so.
Yes.
On a mouche bouche. Like it's like a tasting. So it's like, hey, they
Yes.
may have a new restaurant item. They may have recently switched menus. Maybe there's a new executive chef, whatever. And so the biggest way to get people to try a new meal is to taste it. And so they may bring out
Mm-hmm.
like a piece of our new Chilean sea bass. I'm gonna stop pronouncing words from the restaurant industry, but basically I know they bring out like a sampling. And then if
Yep.
that sampling is bad, I'm not going to want it. But the presentation of that sample still matters. Even if it's a smaller size, which it will be, the preparation still matters, the seasoning still matters. And so as a speaker, oftentimes that keynote, if you're speaking for 15 minutes, you can't dump everything to your point that you know about leadership or mental health or finances into that presentation. It needs to be an amuse bouche, so to speak, and provide the audience with it's whetting your appetite to the extent it's still going to fill you up. It's still going to be nutritious. It's still going to be good, but it's not going to be enough to be completely filling. And so I kind of think about that as a parallel to what you're saying, because at the end of the day, your audience is ultimately, if they truly have a problem, which I think we kind of veer away from that sometimes with speaking, which is why I'm glad you mentioned the motivational versus the more strategic type of speaker. Speakers are like any other entrepreneur. We're here to solve a problem. So if you really have a problem, naturally you're looking for the next step in that solution. And so I'm glad you kind of laid it out in that way.
Absolutely. And I kind of wanted to continue my initial response with a key example of showcasing how someone can still be intentional but not follow through, right? Because I actually just was reminded of a client that I was doing some consulting with. And she was someone who has been speaking for years. She's bombing her industry, and she has a very specific framework that she loves to teach. And she was able to accumulate over 6,000 emails, right, through her speaker journey. So she had an email list of over 6,000 people on it.
That's a
And
nice
then I
list.
asked, exactly. And then, but there's a kicker. So I asked her, I was like, oh, awesome. So when was the last time you emailed your list? And she's like,
Ciao.
and she's like, 6 months ago. So I'm like, great, right? So this is someone who is intentional and she was able to capture the audience, but unfortunately, she didn't have the other pieces in place to actually continue that conversation. And it's awkward because people have already raised their hand. They said that they were interested in what you have to offer. You provided a solution and an answer to the problem that they're actually experiencing, and then you ghosted them. Right? Think about like going on a first date, you have an excellent time, and then the guy never calls you again, right? Or the girl never calls you again, and you're like, what happened? Like, I thought we had a great time.
We had a vibe.
We had a vibe. Like, there was things going on. I thought I told him that I was interested. And then now you're at a place where it's like, okay, what happened? I never heard from you. And then eventually 6 months go by, you forget about that person. And the same is true when you're speaking and you're collecting these email addresses, because there can be someone that's listening to this conversation and they're like, okay, my QR code on the screen, I have my lead magnet, I have an email marketing platform, I already have an email list. But when was the last time you contacted them? When was the last time you invited them actually to take the next step with you? If you don't have those other pieces in place, it's nearly impossible for you to actually properly leverage speaking to grow your business, because it goes back to you speaking for applause and nothing else. And, I love to say standing ovations do not pay invoices. So if you're doing all the things, but you're not following all the way through, it's actually not having the impact that you really desire for it to have. And it could feel discouraging because you're like, okay, I'm doing all the things, I have these pieces in place. And I'm taking notes from these YouTube interviews that I'm watching, right? These YouTube videos and these speaker gurus that I'm listening to. But if you're not following all the way through, you're leaving literally thousands of dollars on the table. And that's something that I really want you to listen to and kind of take note of. Because again, imagine if only 10 people bought and you have a $10,000 offer from your
Yes.
email list of, 6,000 people. You're literally leaving $100,000 on the table because you never invited anyone to take the next step with you.
What was that quote again? You said standing ovations do not lead to revenue.
Standing ovations don't pay invoices.
Yeah, I knew it was something snappier. Okay, yeah. Standing ovations do not pay invoices. Do you have a merch line yet? That could be a
It
great t-shirt.
should be. You know what? Thank you for that idea.
Yeah, a hat, something. All right. So speaking of demystify, that was all. This is all great stuff, by the way. So, by the way, comment in the comments if y'all will wear that shirt. I just want to do some real time market research. See what we get going. I want to kind of have a foundational conversation because your
Yeah,
agency really supports folks with this whole piece of process. But the biggest pain
yeah,
point for a lot of people is finding speaking opportunities. Black
right.
Speakers Network, for our members, we're sharing speaking opportunities all the time, but there's really kind of no one piece to the puzzle. But from your perspective, when it comes to finding quality speaking opportunities, what's up with that? Like, how do people actually get on good stages?
Yes, and I'm so glad you asked that because that is the biggest, like, that might be the number one pain point that people come to me for. It's like the frustration of you Googling conferences in your industry, you going on Eventbrite, and not to mention the hours that it takes to actually find a conference that you actually want to speak at, right? That's the first thing.
Got
You
to be both
finally
ways.
find, right, like you finally find the perfect opportunity, like, oh yes, this is the one. You go in and you click their call for speakers and you realize that it closed in January and you're like, great, great. 4 hours down the drain for me to finally find this. And now I'm back at square one. And that was like the biggest pain point that I kept seeing coming up where people were like, where do I find these opportunities? I want to speak, but I only get organic invitations. And typically people are getting like I would say 3 to 5 organic invitations, and that's me being generous, right? Throughout the year. And these are people that want to be speaking 2 to 3 times a month. So if you're only getting 3 to 5 organic invitations, you need to be able to have like a database or a framework of some sort where you know how to actually source speaking opportunities that don't already have past deadlines, right? So there's a few places that you can actually look, right? So you can look at your industry conferences. So those are typically happening annually. Those are typically like your national conferences, and that you can Google and see when the next one is happening. And the key thing that I would reference there is that most of those bigger conferences, they typically release their call for speakers like 12 months out, right? So you need to be on the ball. So if you're listening to this and you want to be speaking in 2027, you should be looking at when those industry conferences are happening, like right now, to get ahead of that curve. The next thing is like your association events, right? So they typically have like annual gatherings, or sometimes they have like smaller programming throughout the year. Go to their website, look at their events tab, see what's happening there. You can find that podcasts as well. Within your niche, you can reach out to different podcast hosts. Some of them have available guest forms that you can fill out and you can apply to speak on those platforms. There's also virtual summits. So I was a part of a virtual summit back in, what was that, March? Went really well. I was speaking on a panel. So that's another way for you to get in front of, dozens or even hundreds of people, depending on how big the audience is. And then I would also say nonprofit events. Don't sleep on your nonprofits because they are inviting, outside experts and outside speakers to come in. So that's at a foundational level if you want to do the research your absolute self. But the caveat here is, again, if you want to be speaking at least 2 to 3 times a month, you can't just apply to 3 stages in one sitting and say, oh, yeah, I applied to 3 conferences for this month. It doesn't work like that. You need like try 30, try 40, try 50
Facts. Facts.
conferences that you need to be actually like applying to, because that maximizes your chances of you getting a faster response. So if you're only applying to 2 to 3 conferences per month, you may not hear back at all, or you may hear back from one. And it may be an acceptance, it may not be. It just depends. But if you really want to maximize your chances of getting accepted and also getting responses, try a higher volume, like a much higher volume than what you're actually anticipating. So those are some of the places that I would really start with in terms of actually finding the opportunities, right? And now to your point, Brian, you said it needs to be a two-way street, right? Which I thoroughly agree with. So the 3 questions that you should absolutely ask yourself before you actually pitch a conference that you want to speak at, or a podcast, yourself, does this audience contain my ideal clients, right? Because it also needs to be a good fit for you. It's not this mantra of all publicity is good publicity, right? Like speaking in front of the wrong audience can actually waste your time. So you really want to make sure that you are absolutely speaking in front of the people that have the exact problem that you solve. And by them being there, you know that they are actually serious about solving that problem because they're there for a specific reason, right? So that's the first question. The second question is, what is my capture mechanism at this event, right? Am I inviting
Mm.
people to join my email list? Am I inviting them to download my lead magnet? How am I getting people to actually take the next step with me? You need to figure that out, right? You need to know that. And then the third question is, does this topic align with what I want to be known for? And I would take it even a step further and say, is this event organizer or this event host, something that I want to be tied to? Because again, we are building our own brands, whether that's your business brand or your personal brand or your speaker brand. You want to be associating yourself with the right people in the right spaces, because the wrong association can easily be a detriment and a disservice to your brand overall. So you also want to be mindful of thoroughly doing your research before you apply to some of these events, to see how they treated previous speakers, to see how they treated their attendees and what their experience was like. Like, you really want to get a sense of what it is that you're basically applying to and get a holistic view before you actually put yourself out there.
Whew, that's a whole masterclass. Listen, if you don't, I mean, you might have to go back and read the transcript. But listen, on Free Speaker Game a couple weeks ago, we had Ron Story from Speaker Hub, and one of the things he talked about is how Airbnb killed the speaking industry. Not killed per se, but it changed it fundamentally. And so the model for a lot of conferences, we're talking about large conferences, association meetings, things of that nature. They may not have expansive budgets for speakers. They may have no budgets for speakers. They may do a small honorarium or give you a free ticket or something like that. And so what you're talking about now makes that even more important. If you're not being directly compensated, if you're not getting a speaker fee, it could be a massive waste of time to just show up, especially if you're going to another city, you're paying for hotel, you're taking time away from your family, away from your core business or any other responsibilities that you have. It is expensive to show up somewhere and deliver and not get anything back. And so I'm very happy that you kind of laid out the blueprint of how folks are able to do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, because there's nothing worse. And I'm a proponent of speaking for free, right?
Me
I
too.
think there are ways that you can definitely monetize after the stage, having the system that I already talked about, right? And in doing and making doing so worth your time, right? And I think that's what I really want people to take away from our conversation today is like, you're not going to be paid the $10,000 speaker fee off the bat. Like you're just not. And that's okay. And that's okay because guess what? Going back to that example that I used earlier, if you have a $10,000 offer and you are speaking and you capture 100 people and you get one person to say yes to your offer, you just made $10,000 from that one stage, right? Even if it was $2,500 offer that you have, you just made $2,500 from that one stage. So I don't want you to be discouraged, and I don't want you to think like, oh, like I don't want to speak for free, or I need a minimum of X to leave my house. Like, granted, you could have your own, you could have your own, what's the word? You can have your own preferences on what makes you want to leave your house versus not. But I would say remain open minded to seeing what other creative ways you can make in order to maximize the different types of speaking opportunities that come up.
Yeah, and there's all sorts of ways to test your offers before you fly off to Texas or wherever. And that could be maybe another interview. We're going to have Ashley back a few times if y'all haven't realized that. So before we let you go, Ashley, one of the biggest questions we get in Black Speakers Network is how do I get started? Which is kind of a
Mhm.
loaded question because it's like
Right.
what I like working with are folks who are already kind of got some momentum. It don't even necessarily have to be the right action, just taking action.
Hmm.
So for folks who are taking action but are like okay, maybe they've already started speaking, maybe they don't have a website, they don't have some of the pieces fundamentally that you talked about today, social media presence, etc. I know that you've put together a resource to kind of
Hmm.
help get people over that hump of
Yeah.
getting my stuff together, the Get Booked kit. So, would you mind just walking us through what that is? I will link it below for anybody that wants to check it out, but I am not exaggerating. Almost everybody that comes to Black Speakers Network is like, how do I get started? What do I do next? What's the basics? And so, the reason I like this, based on what you've shared, is at least now we have a starting point. So could you walk us
Hmm.
through what that is and how folks can kind of DIY your way to getting some momentum started in this space?
Absolutely. And I too love to work with, people that already have momentum and they have certain things in place. So I want to start by saying who the Get Book Kit is actually for. And the Get Book Kit is a resource and it's your own personalized toolkit specifically for speakers who already have some pieces in place, right? You're already speaking. You may have a lead magnet. You may already have an email list. You may have your speaker one sheet already done, and you now have all of these ingredients, right? And you want to bake a cake. But the ingredients alone does not allow you to bake a cake, right? You need an actual system, you need the actual recipe on how to properly combine all of these resources and these ingredients that allows you to monetize after every single stage that you speak on, right? That's the inspiration for why I put together the Get Book Kit because, like you, I'm noticing that people that are newer in their journey, they're like, okay, I have some things here and there, but I don't quite have everything. And I'm not seeing an ROI on speaking in the way that I desire to. So that's why I actually put together this kit. And you're probably at a place where you're like, okay, I have some time that I could kind of do these things on my own. I don't necessarily need like an agency or someone else to do this for me. I have the time, the dedication, and the determination to actually put this together myself. So that's exactly who the actual kit is for. It's not really for
Nice.
someone who's still like figuring out their offer or you haven't really laid your business foundation like at all. Like I would say start with building out your offer, and then once you have that, then you can actually get started because then the get book will actually be of a more use to where you're at right now.
And
And
just to be clear, when you say
mhm,
offer, can you kind of, because I know
yes.
it might be fundamental to that. Can you get some definition around that?
Yes, absolutely. So your offer is what problem are you solving in the marketplace, right? What are people paying you to solve for them specifically? So that is what your offer is. You're making someone an offer of a solution in exchange for the problem that they're having, and they are giving you money, right? That is the core fundamental of what your business is standing on. And it could be a product that you have, it could be a service that you're delivering, it could be consulting, it could be coaching. It just depends on whatever format. But at the end of the day, that's what your offer is. So with the
Perfect.
Get Book Bit, you are getting the full system, right? It includes access to over 100 vetted speaking opportunities. So we talked about struggling to find your own speaking opportunities. I actually created a resource that I call the Speakers Vault. So you get access to over 100 vetted speaking opportunities. It has the submission deadlines, it has the event details, it has the audience, and it also has the specific link for you to actually go and pitch or go and submit an application to speak. So it's your one stop shop, right? So literally no excuses for you to utilize that resource and actually start hitting that 40 pitches a month that you really want to get to. And it's actually updated monthly. So there's new opportunities coming in every single month. So you can continue to refresh and utilize that resource. The second thing is it gives you three different types of pitch templates depending on what opportunity you're pitching for. So, whether it's a workshop or a training that you want to do, whether it's a podcast that you want to speak on, whether it's a conference that you actually want to pitch, that has the three different pitch templates that you can, take and you can personalize to the different type of opportunity that you're applying for. And then it also has your speaker one sheet. So depending on how new you are to speaking, you may or may not have a one sheet already, but your one sheet is like your business card or like your media kit for speaking, where it has your photo of you on there, it has your signature topics that you speak on, it has some social proof, so some results that you've been able to get for other conferences or other speaking engagements that you've done that you want to highlight on there. It's basically like a one pager showcasing who you are as a speaker. So that way, when you're applying for these different opportunities, you can submit that and people know exactly what it is that you speak on and if it's a good fit for that specific audience, right? And then now, what's the most important part is for after the stage, and it also includes some your welcome sequence, right? So if you have a lead magnet, that should have a welcome sequence attached to it. And
Hmm.
basically, that's you warming up it's a sequence of emails that allows you to warm up your audience. You can introduce them to who you are, the problem you solve, who you solve it for. And then at the end of that email sequence, it invites them to take the next step with you. That's where the actual monetization comes into play. That's where the actual ROI from the stages come into play. So it has that already for you on there. And if you don't have a lead magnet, I have a lead magnet template that walks you through how to create your first lead magnet. So it's
Really
legit.
DIY.
It's DIY. It gives you the step by step of how to create everything, how to actually build out your own profit pipeline, as I like to call it. And it's all together. And the best news is that BSN members, you can use the code BSN10 to get 10% off of it. So that's something that I put together especially for the Black Speakers Network. So yeah, it gives you everything that you need to build out your own system.
we appreciate great resources. It's 2026 and beyond, so we appreciate a great discount as well. So I'll drop that in the link below for folks to check out. But I think that resource is incredible. You mentioned templates, which again, templates, I think sometimes it's the psychological part where we get stuck. And it's like, we know we have a message. We know we want to speak. We perhaps have already been speaking, but it's just not taking the time to get organized. And toolkits, like, the Get Book Kit, being able to have something where now, instead of figuring out, like, what do I need and how to structure it, you can skip that because you already have it, and you just go right to infusing your content into the resource, and now you can kind of hit the ground running. So templates, I know, are always heavily desired, as well as 100 plus speaking opportunities, incredible, that are refreshed on an ongoing basis. That's amazing. And to be able to have, I think oftentimes, if organizations like, hey, send me your information, even if you don't have a fully baked out website, you may not have the social proof that you want quite yet, being able to have a PDF, a speaker one pager that you can send with your kind of outline of who you are, your programs. If you've captured a few testimonials, great. All the things that you would need to get to the next stage in the conversation about that opportunity. That is a solid starting point. So thank you for putting this resource together for us.
Thank you. And again, if you are in DIY mode and you are like, listen, I have no idea where to start, or I have a few of the pieces, but I'm not quite sure how it all works together, the Get Book Kit has everything that you absolutely need to structure and actually start seeing an ROI from speaking.
Love it, love it. Ashley in the building, free speaker game. Any last thought, wisdom, any piece of anything that maybe we haven't covered, or that you just want to reiterate that we did cover before I let you go?
Yes. I'm going to finish it off with my signature phrase: standing ovations do not pay invoices. So if you are a business owner that is leveraging speaking to grow your business, make sure that you have a system in place to help you monetize after the stage by following the system that Brian and I discussed today, because trust me, that's what's going to make or break how successful speaking is in growing your business versus not.
Yep. Put it on a t-shirt, take it to the bank.
I am. I'm actually going to look into getting some merch. And so when I go speak, that's going to be on my shirt. And
Listen,
don't,
you
I was going to say, don't forget to use code BSN10 to get 10% off your Get Book Kit.
Oh yeah, make sure y'all do that. If y'all got any questions, drop them in the comments. If you have future topics you want us to hit on here in Free Speaker Game, please do that. But Ashley, thank you so much again. And as we say here at Black Speakers Network, keep speaking up. Your audience awaits. We'll see y'all on stage. Take care.
Thanks for having me.